Hey folks, welcome back. I'm doing a reading for Taylor Swift today. So I've got a couple of questions that I wanted to ask Spirit about her. I've got my Rider-Waite-Smith tarot cards as well as my Seventh Sphere Lenormand cards to kind of help suss out what kind of a person she is really behind closed doors when it's just her, and I understand that it may not be that often when she is all alone. But who is she really? And I'm also going to look at her relationship with, is his name Travis? Let me just be frank and honest. I don't listen to her music. I'm not a fan. That does not mean that I don't wish the very best for her, that I don't want her to reach her highest self, that I don't want her to reach her life's purpose to fulfill that kind of thing. If she's here on earth for a specific thing, I want to see her get to that point. So that's what this reading is about. First, I want to take a look at her astrological birth chart. With Taylor Swift, we are blessed to have not just the day that she was born, but the time and the location. That's all very important to helping us figure out her houses, what degrees of separation all her planets are in, all that kind of good stuff. So let me pull that up really quick. The very first thing I noticed is that she has a lot of planets in opposition to each other, and it really feels like across her birth chart, things are either over in this corner or this part of the circle over in this part of the circle. So she has a lot of opposing factors. Unfortunately, it looks like she has a pair of stelliums. She has 5 planets in her second house, and that also lands in Capricorn, I noticed. Also, she has 2 planets in Chiron landing in her 8th house, and that's also in the area of Cancer. So we'll talk about that in just a second. But I think it's interesting that she has Cancer and Capricorn at odds with each other. That might mean, well, with the heavier stellium being in Capricorn and in her second house, it's been kind of easy for her to have built her fame and fortune. Now, I noticed that we just finished up Pluto in Capricorn, which, if for somebody like her, she has so much stuff in Capricorn. She also has Saturn in Capricorn in its home planet of Saturn. Therefore, Pluto in Capricorn was pretty kind to her in terms of her career. Now, I note that she's got her true node and Venus in Aquarius. So we'll take a look at that in just a second. But I feel like Pluto in Aquarius might be kind of interesting for her. And what I mean by interesting is that she's going to go through a moment where it feels like there might be a moment where she feels like her romantic aspects are over. I'm talking about Pluto in Aquarius. Her Venus is in Aquarius. So during this upcoming transit, it's going to feel really, really difficult to get in a good feeling groove when it comes to her romantic pursuits. And I felt really bad when I saw that, and I've also seen a whole bunch of people, more conservative folks, really criticizing her for her romantic choices and not settling down at her age. I fucking hate that, okay? For any person, not just for her. It feels like when people bring about those kinds of criticisms, it's really not fair for people who also have their Venus in Aquarius and who are also going to go through this Pluto in Aquarius transit. It's not fair. On the one hand, it's going to feel really rough for her, like things are ending. I can't fall in love again, maybe, okay? Allegedly, let me just say, allegedly for entertainment purposes only. At the same time, it's not just about death. After something ends, it must be reborn in some fashion or another. Maybe that means that she settles down with somebody that we weren't expecting, but that she really genuinely loves from the bottom of her heart. Or maybe she tells herself, I don't need to be in a romantic relationship in order to reach my highest self, in order to be my best, in order to feel good about the legacy that I'm leaving whoever in the future. May that be her fans or her children or people that she creates as her chosen family. She doesn't have to have children in order to leave a legacy. Moon in Cancer, she's deeply emotional, and Jupiter in Cancer, that also tells me about how she likes to see her family expand. And that's not necessarily, or she likes to see them do better, that's for sure. And that doesn't necessarily mean that she would or will create a family of her own with children, okay? But that does mean that she likes to see the people that she grew up with, like her family of origin, for instance, cousins, aunts, uncles, extended family members. She likes to see them do well. She likes to be in balance with them. I also note that her Chiron is in Cancer, and that also means that there might be some degree of pain coming from her family and also from her emotions. There might be a real aspect of herself where she cries a lot when people aren't looking. I am going to ask in more detail what that means, who she is behind the scenes, really. And I feel like she puts a lot of energy into projecting a very perfect image. When I went hunting for a picture for the thumbnail I'm creating for this video, they were all very attractive, perfect looking angles. And I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. When the makeup's off, when the pretty clothes are off, and you're just by yourself, who are you? And I feel like she's the kind of person to get very emotional, to shut the bathroom door and cry it out and do it alone. I'm wondering that with Chiron, if she doesn't, and I'm also noting that it's in the 8th house, which is, I believe, in ending. So I'm going to have to look back in my notes, but I associate the 8th house, without looking back at my notes, to do with endings with Pluto, and we've been talking about that quite a bit. She has Pluto in Scorpio, and that's going to be another rough there were a lot of that generation had some rough stuff when it came to Pluto transiting through Scorpio at the time that I and she, Taylor, were born. It means that she confronts a lot to do with what is taboo. And as a person who, for a lot of conservative people, it seems like she would be the kind of person to enjoy having a family of her own. But with Pluto in Scorpio, she's going to be the kind of person to kind of challenge that, whether she means to or not. I note that her Pluto in Scorpio appears in her 12th house, which is the house that she keeps very, very secret. I mean, closed off from even her closest friends and relatives, possibly even from romantic partners. She doesn't talk about this shit. She protects it above all else, I noticed. I'm looking at other aspects of her chart. Chiron, with Chiron being in Cancer, she might really, really want a family, and she might even pursue it, but it might elude her, unfortunately. I don't know that I've already said that she has a lot of opposing planets, but Cancer and Capricorn are opposing. She's got those two stelliums in those two areas. Taylor might be kind of a hot or cold kind of person with all this oppositional material in her birth chart. It does make things more difficult for her on a personal level when she isn't up on stage. Let me plug in my computer. When she isn't up on stage projecting a perfect image, if you will, things might just feel really rough, like things aren't going her way. She might say, so what about the money and the fame? She might really appreciate her fans, but they may not satisfy her deepest desires for family, for balance. I note that Capricorn, like it's Saturn appearing in Capricorn, that's kind of an exacting planet. The Saturn is the drill sergeant planet, I like to call it. That's the one that works their own, like it seems like Taylor is the kind of person to work her own ass off and expect the people around her to work their own asses off too. And I seem to remember from Aphrodite's reading on Taylor Swift that she demands quite a bit of her dancers, okay? Allegedly for entertainment purposes only. Excuse me. Looking at her chart. I need my glasses. Uranus, I noted, appears in Capricorn. With that opposing her elements in her planets in Cancer, sometimes there are going to be some sudden changes that her audience doesn't see, her fans do not see, and it might even be like only a few members of her team see. So some sudden changes. She might be the kind of person to just suddenly have a kid or suddenly get married, but keep it really, really secret. Capricorn can be kind of a secretive sign, and with Saturn appearing in Capricorn, with that being the heaviest stellium in her chart, I can see her really shutting things down and doing her best to keep things as secret as possible. Mercury also appears in Capricorn here. That, because it appears in her house of material possessions, finances, value, she's not going to talk about her wealth. And I can see how she's going to be honorable in some respects. It's really not popular to brag about your wealth, culturally speaking, okay? But she especially feels this. I feel like she can at least feel some of her fans. She knows her audience, and a lot of folks come from humble backgrounds, and she appreciates that. Or at least she's aware that it wouldn't look good to that audience member to be flashy about her wealth. She's not that kind of person. I don't know that I would... Okay. Yeah, Spirit is saying that yes, she can be humble in many regards, but not always. I come back to the being exacting of herself, expecting perfection of herself, and also by extension, expecting perfection of others. Kind of a trap to fall into. This is interesting. Neptune appears in Capricorn, and that's another really powerfully opposing context, especially with Cancer having its own stellium. She's got some opposing water and earth energy. And it wouldn't normally be opposing for her. I kind of get Queen of Pentacles energy. In the Thoth tradition of tarot, that's going to be earth and water. Kind of not just Queen of Pentacles energy, but also Nine of Pentacles energy. Doesn't that make sense? A single wealthy feminine figure having a field of grapes, which implies that she has the money to buy property to properly harvest, have good grapes, to even have good wine to begin with. But in this case, with her particular chart, these energies are opposing. So with Neptune being in Capricorn, she gets dreamy about what she wants to do with her money, but Capricorn says no. Invest. Keep it going, keep building with this. And I don't know that she lets loose that often. Like, I'm sure that she treats herself when it comes to vacations and that kind of nice those kinds of nice things. But I also feel like she shuts down a lot of the desires that she has. Like when Neptune says, oh, let's do these kinds of fun things, let's get dreamy, let's get intuitive about what we want to do with this, kind of some Pisces energy too. She doesn't necessarily do it. She saves back, and I understand that. Is she a billionaire? Someone comment down below. Is she a billionaire? I don't remember exactly. I thought that she was. But she didn't get to be, if she is a billionaire, she didn't get that way just by being dreamily spending wherever her heart desired. kind of a good thing, kind of a bad thing. Taking a look again, I'm looking at her Venus in Aquarius again, and also her true node. That's going to be, I'm hoping that she can find her true love and feel settled down in that particular relationship. I don't know. She can, but she can't expect perfection of herself, of her partner, nor of the relationship. And I feel like that's something that she's going to have to come to terms with. Maybe in her later 30s. Let's see, in 1989, she's 35 right now. She's about to head into her later 30s, and that might be a lesson that she has to learn about. Perfection is not natural. It isn't natural in nature, and we shouldn't expect perfection of us. Perfection is the enemy of good, as I like to say. So, I've already done a little bit of a reading into her astrological chart. A true astrologist who has years of experience could probably have a field day, do a full 24-hour reading if they really wanted to into her chart. There's a lot going on in this chart, and just seeing the opposing aspects, I really hope that she doesn't turn herself into a kind of slave. And I mean that in the sense that she just works herself to the bone without really giving herself a break. She needs to ask herself, why exactly is she working so hard for something that she may not even end up valuing that much later on in life? And I'm not just talking about later on in her 30s. I mean 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. May she have a long life. Is she going to treasure all the wealth, all the fame that she accumulated during that time? Or is she going to say, I wish I had done something differently? Let's move on to some other questions. Let's see. So I've already looked at her astrological chart. I want to ask, who is she really? When behind closed doors and it's just her by herself, who is she really? I'll be right back. So I've shuffled the Seventh Sphere Lenormand. I've put them out in a 9-card spread, and I can already tell you that what I saw in her birth chart, she doesn't show how difficult life is for her, but it is with this 9-card spread. Dude, being in the public eye, hearing people talk about her all the time, it's rough on this poor chick. I feel like I want to give her a hug. I'm getting emotional just thinking about her being in this headspace. Let's talk, okay? In the center of her 9-card spread, she has the Mountain, which is things are difficult for her behind the scenes. Mountain lands on the house of the Tree, which tells me that her difficulties with being in the public sphere have been growing steadily since she became famous. She is deeply talented, and I can feel like she is very grateful for her talent, but she's saying it comes at a really, really high price. Framing her 9-card spread, we've got birds and stork on the first level, and anima, or my feminine card for the Seventh Sphere Lenormand. Really pretty. I wondered if the woman card, so to speak, anima, wouldn't appear in this reading. I thought it would appear in the center. She got Mountain instead in the center. Anima and cross appear. She finds the constant cycle of drama about her to be deeply burdensome, and she wishes it would just stop. She wants this burden to end because this lands on the house of the Scythe. She wants it to stop in the snap of a finger. She wants it done now. Something else I noticed There's a successful woman. She finds success literally. You can read this like a sentence. Taylor Swift finds her success to be a burden, but you'll never hear her talk about it because success, the sun card appears on the house of the coffin. You'll never hear her talk about this. And I note that her card appears on the house of the snake. Please don't come for me. But I feel like she tells lies, not just to herself, but to others, in a way to protect, in order to shield her friends, her family, her romantic partner, her audience, her deepest fans. She feels like she has to lie about this to keep up a fantasy, and that ties back into that thing earlier that I was talking about, her it looking like she needs to feel perfect. Doesn't matter what angle the picture is taken or what angle the video was taken, she needs to look good, and that's part of the lie that she's selling, that she feels like that she has to sell. Because she has so much influence in Capricorn, it feels like she's imprisoned herself with her own high expectations, and appearing above her, punishment. It's not just the gossip cycle that punishes her, although that does happen too. She punishes herself behind the scenes because Whip appears on the house of the home, behind closed doors. She, at the very least, mentally abuses herself, emotionally abuses herself, withdraws from people when she really doesn't feel like she wants to, but does it to punish herself. She withdraws from people who love her. Like, dude, I feel so awful for this poor chick. Don't let anyone tell you that fame doesn't come at a price, dude. Doesn't come at a deep price, especially for people who don't like it. Fame punishes her. She finds fame difficult, and people don't see it. The Garden card, what I associate with fame in this case, appears on the House of Clouds. Her audience doesn't see it, and it's because Taylor hides it like you would not believe, and I would expect that of a Capricorn or someone who has a stellium in Capricorn. I would expect nothing less for them to be very, very secretive. But it's torture for her. I see her continuing this burden on into the future because she feels like she has no choice. I often hear many Capricorns say that they feel like a failed Capricorn because they have such high expectations of themselves and what they want to do, what they plan to accomplish in life. And I feel like she does this, even though her sun sign is in Sagittarius. Okay, Sagittarius lands in the home planet of Jupiter. She expects expansion of herself, expects to expand. That's why you've seen her influence blow up gradually over years to the point that she's this mega star, if you will, a permanent A-lister. And it imprisons her because she feels like this is my only choice. I've gotten to this high mountain. She doesn't feel like she can connect to anyone else because she is on such a high mountain. And it's interesting, whenever I think about her romantic partners, a complete opposite, I hate to put it this way, a total nobody might be the best person for her in some ways. It might be that they could see her for who she is and see her without the fame. Well, that's definitely what she wants, but also doesn't want at the same time, because it ties again to that secretive Capricorn aspect of her. But I'm seeing here how isolated she is. Her top row has birds, tower, and stork. A deeply isolated figure because of the constant gossip about her, people constantly talking about her. It feels like she can't get a moment's rest when she desperately wants it. Going to be a permanent, maybe not permanent, but I see going forward into the future, it's going to be just difficult for her to exist. She feels like she can't escape the constant talking about her with birds. That's gossip, chatter, messy gossip, messy chatter. People constantly talking about her. It's also about drama. Can be in this case. I don't feel like she's the kind of person to attract it so much, especially with that heavy Capricorn stellium. This is someone who dislikes drama, and again, likes perfection. Drama is not perfection to her. Demands perfection of herself. I said earlier, slave. This feels like someone who is enslaved to her own perfection. You know, earlier when I talked about her having high expectations of her dancers and her dancers feeling kind of stressed because felt like they needed to be perfect for her, in many ways that's a projection on Taylor's part. She could make it easy going on her, but there's no way in that Capricorn stellium that she would easily do that. That feels like that would take years, if even decades of maturity and experience and spirituality, getting in touch with her spirituality. That takes decades of emotional maturity in order to reach that point. I don't care what anyone says. This is tragic. Yeah, I'm continuing to look at her spread. This is a tragic figure, dude. In spite of the success that she intentionally or unintentionally projects, she's miserable, dude. And I don't know that she would even tell her family or her friends or even her closest staff members. I don't think that she would tell that to them because they, in a sense, rely on her to be perfect Taylor. When the kindest thing would be to do would say, you don't need to be this person who imprisons herself. And Taylor would say, yes, I do. The fans need me. I inspire them to be bigger than themselves. My staff need me. My team needs me because that's where their money comes from. My family, my friends look up to me because I'm their role model. I do need to be this perfect. And this is how she imprisons herself. I'm getting shuffle these 3 cards and pull out 3. What was I saying earlier about her burden just wanting to stop? She feels like she can't stop. She wants this to end. She wants to feel so lighthearted. She wants to feel... She wants to feel like a little girl again. She can't. She cuts down her own dreams. You see this? I'm going to try to hold it. Do you see this? She cuts it down because she feels like she has no choice. I don't think I was holding it up correctly. I'm sorry. There we go. She cuts down her own dreams because she feels like she has no choice. She is anchored, and I would expect to see that of a Capricorn. Or with someone who has such a heavy Capricorn stellium. I would expect to see that. She can't move out of the harbor of her own expectations. She can't. If you ever look at anchors in real life, they are enormous, and there's no way in hell that a little bitty scythe meant to be operated by human hands is ever going to cut down the chain that releases a boat, a ship, from its anchor. Dude, this is tragic. This is genuinely tragic. Who is she behind closed doors? She's a broken, crying individual. Okay, let me take a look at another question. I want to look at the state of her relationship with Travis Kelce. If I'm not Kelce, if I'm not pronouncing his last name correctly, please accept my apologies. I'm going to shuffle her cards, lay them out, and I'll be right back. I'm using the Rider-Waite-Smith cards for discussing how her relationship with Travis is going. This is a new relationship, for a new feeling for her. She's been in relationships in the past. This is something new. And I don't know that it's necessarily a good thing, because there's some conflict. And it's not like Five of Swords conflict, where there's like real blades involved, people got hurt. This is more of a sparring match, but there's still some degree of tension underneath the surface, and not a good kind of tension. I can definitely feel that there is the potential for a great deal of sexual activity here. Their sex life might be great, but I don't know how they are behind the scenes, because I feel like she's still healing from, she's a hurting person behind the scenes. This is someone who self-sabotages in so many different ways. She doesn't need to be a person who fights with her romantic partners, but because she is kind of a self-sabotager, because she imprisons herself, there's going to be some conflict beneath the surface of their relationship, and they're not going to give that off for the public to see very clearly. And she most especially isn't, with that secretive Capricorn stellium. But she keeps her up at night. This particular relationship, are we going to break up? What are people going to say if and when we break up? Is he even the right person for me to be dating? Yeah. Definitely she needs to administer self-love onto herself before she can give it to others, and I don't feel like she's in this mindset. I don't feel like they're doing that well behind the scenes. They might project a perfect power couple image. I don't feel like that's what's going on behind the scenes at all. Again, the sex might be great, but it feels like the not good outweighs the good. I was talking about the Five of Swords just a second ago. She feels like this kind of relationship hurts more than it feels good. I feel like they're not like outright fighting, but they're fighting behind gritted teeth. I'm getting this image of like a couple sitting down next to each other. They're on their phones and they're having like a difficult discussion, not an outright fighting thing, because I feel like she wants things to go well. I feel like she wants to be a peaceful individual while also expecting perfection out of others. She wants to win, so to speak, but she doesn't want the consequences of, and when I say winning, she wants to be right, she wants to be perfect, but she can't have it. Striving for perfection is the enemy of good. And when she strives for a perfect relationship, winning at perfection in her relationship, being perfect, so to speak, for Travis, it shoots her in the foot. It shoots the relationship in the foot, and it drives him away. I mean, look at the figures in the background, if my camera will focus. This is hard, dude. She refuses to take on a more playful aspect. With the Six of Cups upright, that tells to me of adults who who tap into their inner children, if you will, and they just let the world pass them by, and for just a moment, they have a great good time. Taylor is not able to do this. Travis might be the kind of person to say, baby, let's just go out and forget about everything. Let's do a getaway, an island getaway, a yacht getaway, or something like that. And she can't, because she feels like she always needs to be on. She always needs to look like her best. She always needs to feel her best, look her best, be her best. She can't, like, her inner child is all but dead. And that might be what that Ten of Swords in reverse is all about, is she can't get in touch with her inner child, because her inner child, although she desperately wants to be there, she imprisons herself, because that's not perfect. Getting in touch, the inner child allows room for messiness. I'm getting the Birds card from the Lenormand. That's allowing for messiness, for not being perfect, and anything less than perfect will not satisfy Taylor. Avoiding the end of thinking this way, of feeling this way, of being this way. She's avoiding the end of operating the way that she does within her romantic partnerships, and not just within her romantic partnerships, within her friendships, within her family relationships, being a role model. She refuses to transition into that part of herself that says, I don't have to be perfectly perfect 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. She refuses to transition. She is trapped by her own mindset. And this is where justice is eventually, karma is eventually going to catch up with her, and not in the sense that she has done anything bad. I genuinely don't feel like she's that kind of person to intentionally do harm to people because it makes her feel good. I don't think that way at all. That is not what I'm getting off of these cards. I'm getting a crying, broken individual who refuses to change because the pursuit of perfection is more important to her than anything else. And karma is going to balance the scales. The scales are incredibly unbalanced right now. This is kind of Libra energy, and I believe, I'll need to look back at her chart. I thought that she had some Libra energy. If she doesn't, I stand corrected. In any case, the scales must be rebalanced, and I'm kind of terrified of, for her, what does that mean? You pursue perfection to this point where you are absolutely on top of the mountain, absolutely alone. There's nobody who can reach you and who can touch you. What does that mean? What does coming off that mountain mean for her? This is the last card I'll pull for this particular question. Temperance in reverse. I said earlier that she is utterly out of balance. Karma is going to rebalance things. The universe, her ancestors, her guides are going to be rebalancing things for her because she has avoided this for so long. It's time for change to occur, and I feel like this is going to be an incredibly painful experience for her. For some reason, the age 36 keeps coming up. And I don't know necessarily why that might be an astrologically important year for her. Pluto in Aquarius will be well into swing by then, and one of the planets that I tell my audience to look at when I give zodiac readings I used to give zodiac readings at the beginning of each month to kind of help you predict what your month could look like. And I'm going to start that back up again soon. But one of the planets I tell people to look at is Venus. And I feel like through her romantic relationship with Travis and with others, maybe remembering how she conducted herself in previous romantic relationships, that's kind of going to be the thread that starts pulling up the carpet. That's going to be the thing that justice, temperance, and death say, enough is enough. You've resisted this for long enough, and now we're forcing change onto you. I'm terrified I'm coming back to the Six of Cups. I'm terrified for the inner child inside of Taylor, just because I know how horrific it can be for the universe to correct a situation that has gone on for a really long time that needed correcting, and Taylor, resists to the point that the universe has no choice but to force things. My next question is about her music career. I'm asking about the possible storyline of her music career from the present point to its end. I'll be right back. I'm using the Seventh Sphere Lenormand to take a look at how her music career could possibly progress. And I say possibly because I'm predicting the future, sort of. If she makes a choice to reach her highest, her best self, what I've got out here is no longer relevant. The cards will change, and I really, really hope that she chooses to go for her highest, best self, chooses to let go of the need, the drive, the enslavement to perfection. I have the coffin, the mice, the letter, the writer, animus, or my masculine card. I have moon, and I have lily. At the center of this reading, I've got writer, which is about swift, fast incoming news coming through. And that's something that she's going to get behind the scenes because it lands on the house of the house. So this is not something that she's going to necessarily broadcast, but it's going to kick off a journey. It's going to be a letter. It's going to kick off the slow roll down to the end. With the lily here at the end of the spread, that's about retirement in this case. It's the white lily, not the red. Red would be about sexuality. This is about retiring. And I feel like I don't know exactly why it lands on the house of the snake. Lying to you? She might be lying to you about retiring. Lying to herself about retiring. Okay. I don't know why she would lie to herself about retiring as her music career. I just feel like she would be exhausted by the time she came to this particular point. I feel like she's not going to be able to easily get in touch with her emotions, with her intuition. That stellium in Capricorn, she's not going to be able to easily get in touch with this because this card lands on, the moon card lands on the house of the clouds. She can't see it. She's going to be exhausted. You know, whenever we have a anima or animus card land on the house of the tree, that can be about a doctor or a therapist. And they might say, you need to stop. This is killing you. It might be just a masculine figure. It doesn't have to be feminine or masculine. It's more about someone who says, we need to bring order to this chaotic situation instead of unleashing creativity into which might feel some kind of chaos, right? It's that masculine versus feminine. It's that emperor versus empress kind of energy. This feels like an emperor kind of character. Might be a lawyer, for instance, whom she deeply trusts, but this is someone with whom she has a growing relationship. It's a platonic relationship. It is not romantic. I don't know how romantic she's going to feel. I feel like she is dried up spiritually, emotionally speaking, kind of like what we saw in the reading with about Travis, her relationship with Travis. She can't give to that relationship because she expects perfection out of it, and it slaughters her. It kills the relationship. There's some kind of, I'm getting here a letter bookending the Animus card. This might be just a literal note that this masculine figure writes to her and says, I've been watching you do this now for a really, really long time, Taylor, and this is killing you. Something has got to give. And okay, this might be, when it lands on the house of the snake, this might be about her retiring in perfection. Well, if I'm going to end things, it's going to be on my terms, and it's not going to be anything less than absolutely ideal. We're going to hit perfection like my fans have never seen it. And then it'll be lights out, so to speak, for her music career. She's not, these two cards are bookending each other. She's not going to talk about this. She's not going to admit. That's interesting. She's not going to admit to herself that she is retired. She's going to continue to make music behind the scenes and say, see, I'm still working. I'm still the musician, the artist, Taylor Swift. I can still do this. I can still churn out songs, music, albums year after year. I don't have to retire if I don't want to. It's because I'm choosing to, for my own health, because my doctor or whoever this masculine figure is, could be dad, could be an uncle. I didn't feel a romantic partnership. I feel like her romantic partnerships feel intimidated by her because she is so powerful. It feels like she's untouchable in many ways. So this letter that she's not going, this masculine figure might send her this letter. She's going to keep it from everybody. It's literally just going to be a letter between her and him. And it's about the destruction of lightheartedness because it lands on the house of Clover. Remember how earlier I pulled out Scythe, Anchor, and Clover? Whatever this letter says, it's somehow going to do something for her inner child where it feels like it finally dies. And the inner child, I don't believe, can ever be completely killed unless you're sociopathic or something genuinely breaks inside the mind. But there's something about how destructive this letter is that she's going to bury deeply, going to repress very, very deeply, adding further to her pain. There's no need to hide, Taylor, is what guides are saying. No need at all. Humbling yourself before your audience would only increase your popularity. This poor chick, dude. How many times have I said that? For some people, fame is absolutely more of a curse than it ever was a blessing. I've got 2 more questions. What does she really want out of life, and is she getting it? I think we can already say that she isn't getting it. If you're miserable, you're not getting what you want out of life, right? If she isn't, since she isn't getting what she wants out of life, what can she do in order to get it? I'll be right back, okay? I'm going to shuffle. I'm going to lay out the cards. In order to get what she really wants out of life, she's going to have to do stuff that no way in hell would she easily do. Like, I feel like she would be, if she were to do this of her own accord, part of her would be dragged kicking and screaming into it. I feel like her Cancer stellium would have to somehow overpower her Capricorn stellium in order for this to happen, for her moon in Cancer to say, I choose to flow with the universe. No way in hell is she going to do this easily. And I'm saying no way in hell would she do it. I would love for her to reach her highest self and choose to do this. But I feel like the universe is going to drag her kicking and screaming into it. Knight of Pentacles in reverse. She is going to have to stop working on creating lies that shield her from the truth. Shield her, quite literally. Shield her from the truth of her situation. If you have all the fame, all the money, all the status in the world, and you're not happy, what's the fucking point? She hasn't gotten to the point where she asks herself that question yet. She's defending. What she needs to become is defenseless. You know what? She already is defenseless in many, many ways. When she imprisons herself in a jail of her own making, when she demands perfection of herself, when she enslaves herself to perfection, she enslaves, she pulls down her guard completely and makes her open to all kinds of wounds that she would never want to have, that no one would ever wish for her, that no one would ever want for themselves. Stop working on lying to herself and become humble and vulnerable. And I feel like the universe might be creating circumstances where she's forced to do that. Through that masculine figure, sending that letter or sending her a message. Written form, I don't know that he would speak it to her. I didn't get a sensation that would be a spoken message, but a written message. Through death in reverse, through justice in reverse, through temperance in reverse in that other Rider-Waite-Smith reading. Something about her situation is going to right itself through what this masculine figure says. And I'm getting the phrase shut down. She's going to be forced to shut down. Kicking and screaming against fate. Instead of her willingly go towards her destiny as a more vulnerable person, she's going to be dragged kicking and screaming into her fate. I feel horrible for this poor person. I'm struggling. She doesn't deserve this because she's genuinely doing this because she thinks it's the right thing to do. So deserve is such an awful word for this kind of situation, but there are consequences even for doing the right thing that she thinks she should do when it's the wrong thing. One more question. What is this incarnation of Taylor's soul here on Earth to do, and is she doing it? I think we've answered that question. What is this incarnation of Taylor's soul here on Earth to do, and what can she do to course correct? I'll be right back. If she is to do what she was put on this earth, what this current incarnation of Taylor's soul is put here on earth to do, she is to become an open book. Release her secrets. It would be revolutionary for her, in fact, to commit to clearing away what isolates her, what separates her from her fans, the people that she wants to be role models for, friends, family. That would take such a commitment for her to be an open book for her romantic partners too. And not just in public, but behind closed doors. In many ways, I feel like she lies to herself. This would mean being an open book, being honest with herself, not just the people who look up to her and the people in her life. I don't know that she could do this because this feels like a long journey. What I was saying earlier about this taking decades for her to learn to do. Decades of emotional maturity and getting in touch with her spiritual aspect. I don't feel like she's hardly she can be spiritual, but only circumstances where she feels like it's socially acceptable. So really not that spiritual at all. She would need to, in order to save her soul from further destruction, she needs to quickly revolutionize the aspect of herself that says, I need to hide who I am, and I need to chase perfection in myself, in others. I need to demand it of myself and others. I don't think that she's able to do this right now. I'd love to see her do it. She would need to go out in public. She hates chatter. She hates it when people gossip and create drama around her. She hates that. And that, if she's to pursue her highest self, do what she was put on earth here to do, what she was meant to do here on earth, she would need to expose how she's allowed her closed bookedness, how she's allowed her secretiveness, her desire, her chase for perfection, her enslavement to perfection. She would need to clear the air and talk about how that's dominated her. But I see her as choosing to lie and repress instead. She would need to reveal, if she's going to be her best self, she would need to reveal how she's lied to herself, how she's lied to her fans, to the people who look up to her as a role model, who put her up on a pedestal. She would need to lie about how she's repressed, even telling the truth to herself. And I don't know that she's going to be able to do that in this lifetime. She will, but not openly to people, which is half of why she's here, half of the battle, half of her journey. Excuse me for the whistling. I genuinely hope that Taylor reaches her best self. I hope that these readings are, that she proves them wrong and says, I'm going to be open. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to tell people the truth about myself. I'm going to be an open book, even when it's painful, even when it feels like the absolute wrong thing to do, and even if it feels like I can't protect myself if I do that. Even if she feels that way, I want to be wrong, and I want her to reach her best, her highest self, but I don't know that she's fully going to get there in this lifetime. I still wish her all the best in the world. I wish her joy and peace, contentment, satisfaction. I hope that when she comes to the end of her life, which I feel like will be long, I feel like she's going to be an elderly individual. I hope that when she gets there, that she will say, I left a legacy that I'm proud of. Y'all have a good day. Take care.